Hey, you guys!
This is the DG Podcast. We're here at episode 97, part B. Rhett's here. How you doing?
I'm alright.
Good. Anything new since a couple days ago? We've both been sick over the weekend, which is awful.
Ironically, neither of us knew about it. It was just sort of like, oh, I was sick yesterday, and you're like, oh, so was I.
Yep.
Played Bloodborne, of course. I finally beat, if anybody's actually played the game, I finally beat Ebrietas, who's just ridiculously hard.
Mm-hmm.
And if one of you comes out and says, oh, well, Ebrietas is easy, you're just a noob, you know what? Screw you. You always get those stupid comments that's like, oh, you guys suck it. Yeah, and you beat it the first time, and rainbows came out of your butt. I mean, come on. This is Bloodborne. It's not... This isn't Mario. At any rate, I beat one of the hardest bosses in the game. Took me a lot of effort, and I finally figured out a consistent way to beat it. And most people are beating it at maxed out levels. I was still beating it in my, 60s.
So, what's max level cap?
It's probably reaching 100, I think.
Really? And they finally go back and beat her?
Yeah, I assume people are... Because I saw a video of a guy beating him in, his 90s. He's like, oh... And he shows the stats and stuff on the weapons. And it's, ridiculous damage. And I'm playing it. And I'm, doing half as much damage as he is.
A lot of getting out of the way.
Chance is freaking out. He sends me a text message. I'm so freaking done with Dark Souls. Just done.
And tomorrow he's going to be like, I'm so freaking done with Dark Souls. Oh boy, that's awesome. It's kind of funny that he's getting into Dark Souls. That's not really his kind of game, at least from...
It's not, and I've told him 100 times, it's rewarding, but it's hard, and you have to stick with it. I just don't think he understands the game super well. I should stream or something and show him me playing it. Because it's frustrating to be like, oh, well, you just do this and you beat it, but to see how people beat it and stuff is a whole other game.
That's true.
I'd be willing to do it if he wants me to just goof around on it. I played a bunch of Bloodborne. I watched... Shoot, I've been trying to catch up on Turn, because the new season of Turn is coming up if anybody's actually watching.
What is
that.
Turn?
It's about the Revolutionary War and the first spy network in America.
Cool.
It's actually really good. It's on AMC, I think. Same guys who do Walking Dead and Breaking Bad and Mad Men and stuff.
They've been doing some pretty good stuff.
Yeah, I really like Turn. I like the era and stuff. I dig the whole show. And they're finally wrapping up Gotham's first season. They've only got 3 episodes left, and the first of the last 3 aired tonight.
I might binge watch them. Well, I can't say that anything unusual or epic's been going on with me. Playing some video games with my kids and stuff, which is always... I mean, I may joke about it, but I do enjoy playing video games with my kids, except when they, stand in front of me. Or, actually, a lot of times what my kids will do is they'll turn and face the TV and try to talk to me. So that they want to see what's going on, so they'll stop right in front of the television, so they're between me and it, and I'm, trying to look through their head.
Yeah, well, kids do that where you're sort of doing something and then they walk right in front of the TV. And it's not just right in front of the TV. They'll, walk right in front and then stop and then talk to you face to face. And you're like, you do clearly see that I'm looking at something.
Yeah, and then they'll try to talk to me because they can't not look at the screen. You know what I mean? It's kind of funny. I've been playing some of those games with
and
my
then
kids.
Turn
and stuff,
around so you get to look at the back of the head.
A book recently and started another one. I talked to you about it on our drive to class, but
yeah,
they both have this kind of theme in there where there's someone involved that's basically turning other people into pieces of crap because they tell them there's no rules, you can do whatever you want, and so they're surprised when people suddenly start doing whatever they want. Anyway.
We recorded a lot of Bloodborne.
Yeah, we did.
Jason played through a bunch of it. What do you think of the game?
It takes a bit to get used to. Yeah,
it's a lot faster paced.
Yeah. They do definitely want you to not hang back. They want you to be aggressive and take the fight to the enemy. One of the things that I really found intriguing was that the people you're killing are shouting at you, "Help me," while you're slicing them up.
I heard somebody's theory, which is nonsense, but I read somebody's theory online where they were speculating as to whether or not you were the monster.
Uh-huh.
And they were just, like, random people.
Right.
Which just isn't true, but...
No, it isn't. I mean, you can totally tell that they are infected with something, and they're... I mean, who else hangs around with weapons and just,
Well, it's like, as stuff takes a hold of you, as the whatever it is that's going on with Bloodborne takes a hold of you, your mind starts to go, but you still sort of have this weird sort of rationale thinking going on. So you still start to see yourself as something, but you become more paranoid and see other people as beasts, and it's just sort of like kill family members as you go crazy sort of moment.
I've been wondering about that. You were mentioning that as you progress and you kill more people and you level up and stuff in the game, that whatever it was they did to you becomes stronger and stronger. And I've been wondering what the end game is going to be like, where do you then become the next blood god or whatever whatever it is after you kill the current one, kind of thing, or do you stop the problem, and then to make sure that the problem doesn't occur again, do you off yourself, or what are they going for there? It's interesting.
I haven't
been
to the ending yet, but I could tell you 100% that there are 3 endings.
Nice.
Other than that, I don't know. It's hard to say.
I wonder if the 3 endings are going to be based on one choice you make, or if it's going to be...
No. It's actually... I don't know. It would ruin it for me to say, and we want you to actually experience the game naturally.
Mm-hmm.
But it's sort of... You get to make sort of a decision of a yes or a no,
mm-hmm.
and then a third ending is you have to set up certain conditions for the third ending to occur.
Uh-huh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
So you're given 2 options when you get to the end.
Uh-huh.
Or if you set it up in just the right way and you have this like right items and stuff, then you can have the third ending.
Cool.
But yeah, you'll be able to discover that as we go. But we recorded a bunch of it, but we need to post that online and actually, I don't know, edit it a bit and put a little thing in the front. But anyway, expect that in the future. Nobody who watches it. But we enjoyed putting it together, and at least we're creating more content, so suck it, Chance. Gosh. It would be nice if we just went straight like gaming journalism and wrote great articles and reported on the news and this, and that. But you know what? Nobody wants to listen to that anymore. Nobody cares about straight gaming journalism. IGN's been falling apart. There are 4 or 5 like biggest personalities just left. The biggest personalities on the Escapist magazine left. There were other magazines that had a bunch of their big guys leave too, like IGN. No, it wasn't IGN. It was all of Inside Gaming left Machinima.
Right.
All of Inside Gaming. We're talking like 5-6 people. Machinima's in the crapper. They laid off quite a few people. Like, the way gaming journalism is done now, nobody cares. Nobody watches because nobody's interested.
Right.
Nobody reads the stupid blogs unless you're doing like a little blurb. And this is the sort of thing that the news is realizing too. A lot of blogs are sort of becoming the new news. And you just sort of read a lot of like shocking stories. I watched a video because I was mildly interested. Because CM Punk, when he left WWE, was all pissed off, and he described this one moment where Ryback sort of threw him off a ladder or something like that, and he landed on a table wrong. And he got all pissed off with Ryback because he had screwed up or something. And he was calling him all sorts of things. And there was this video online of like, Ryback describes what he would do to CM Punk if he met him. And I was like, oh crap. So I listened to this little segment of a podcast where he's being interviewed by this guy, and Ryback's chatting with him and stuff. And literally the podcast is Ryback going, it's like, yeah, I don't hold any animosity. Good luck to him and, everything he does and stuff. I was like, this isn't like the title explained. I expected Ryback to be like, I'm going to beat the crap out of that guy for what he said. You know what I mean?
Well, yeah, that's what you expect from wrestlers, from pro wrestlers. They're like,
but it's like that hype sort of like article stuff, which the internet does. That BS
right.
Sort of like, read this weird little trick to lower your weight or something like that.
Right.
It's like they always do those little like fake news articles, like here's some information that you click on. It's like nonsense. That's what attracts people now. Nobody wants to read about whether or not a game is good. They want to see other people play it that they trust and have similar personalities, right. And then see if they enjoy it, and then they make those decisions, which is why Let's Plays are so popular. Let's Plays might end up leaving. I doubt that. Let's Plays are far too attractive to people because you're more likely to buy a product based on the recommendations of your friends rather than the recommendations of some sort of article.
That's true.
Like, we've talked about games Dark Souls enough. Chance got Dark Souls, and as much as he's been pissed off about it, he took a recommendation from really just me, a friend of his, rather than just simply some news article.
Right.
Word of mouth is far more powerful than anything that the internet can actually provide.
Well, it's one of those things, the internet can provide word of mouth. That's what they're trying to exploit. But the thing
Which is why Let's Plays work.
Right. But internet wants to supply everything as well, and people don't care about that other crap.
Yeah.
Okay, so do we want to do movies or comic book lists today? We did movies last time. Let's do a comic book one.
Sounds
see.
Good.
Or video games.
Whatever you want.
I got it. 10 things DC Comics wants you to forget about the Joker.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, let's hear. Let's hear what DC Comics wants me to forget.
He was repeatedly killed off.
I read a lot of Batman, but I don't recall him dying, but this might be like previous stuff that I haven't, or maybe it's like he quote-unquote died, but didn't really die. Like, he sort of dies in, Court of Owls, but then well, it's not Court of Owls, it's that one where he tears his mask off. I can't remember what the story arc is.
It
stares his face off.
Yeah,
he sort of dies, but then
family.
He doesn't. Yeah, but he doesn't really
right.
die, you know what I mean?
Well, the thing is that in the originally he was actually supposed to die in his first appearance.
Yeah, no, I recall that.
And I guess they just, people really liked him as a villain, and so they kept bringing him back. But it sounds like it says here, in the early years, the Clown Prince of Crime was very much the Kenny to Gotham City's South Park.
Oh. See, I haven't read a lot of early Batman, but that makes sense.
And so this is like Batman #1.
Huh.
He was, he dies kind of thing. And so it sounds like,
If a character's popular and will bring them money, he will never stay dead forever.
And at the end of The Killing Joke. Evidently he was supposed to die then.
I didn't really see him as dead.
Yeah.
As good as that book was, I didn't see him as dead.
Well, it's one of those things, it's like, the mythos of, and everything, it's like, they wanted to, kill him off, but you can't kill off the Joker.
No, well, it's like they killed Wolverine, and he's been dead for like a year,
Uh-huh.
but he's not going to stay dead. What are they joking?
Right, exactly. Okay, so the Clown Prince of Crime used to have fun.
Well, he actually used to be jokey. He wasn't violent.
Right.
It was more like he liked to play practical jokes, and he was kind of a retard. I mean, not in the mentally disabled, but just in the I act stupid and I'm a piece of crap.
Right. He was the green hair, purple suit. All of his things were about practical jokes. He wasn't a dangerous criminal. He was the one that would throw a pie in your face. And originally the pie would just be a pie. Now it's a pie laced with arsenic or, acid.
Yeah, well, he was more like a bumbler. Like,
Yeah.
he's like, oh, do this or whatever, and tee-hee-hee. You know what I
Right.
mean? It's not until later that they sort of turn him into this dark character, and part of the reason why the dark character works so well is because a lot of people are afraid of clowns.
Very true.
And it just works where it's like he's got that creepy smile, and you're just like, oh, you know what I mean?
Right. Historically, he had a face too.
What?
Well, it says historically he had a face too.
What do you mean?
Let's see. Let's go to the next one. Let's see. He used to have his own utility belt. Let's see. Yeah, it had a hand buzzer, snake pellets, sneezing powder capsules, itching powder capsules, water squirting police badge with bulb and hose attached, false cigarette pack with jumping jack mechanism, exploding cigarettes, eyepiece which leaves the viewer with a black eye, Mexican jumping beans, flower pellets that burst into bloom, playing cards, and a small cork.
Yeah, I haven't been up on recent Batman stuff.
Yeah, let's see. He once had a different daughter.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay.
It was
Evidently,
sort of like
Duella
a
Dent
counter Batman.
is
film.
calling herself the Joker's daughter or something. Let's see. He has a backstory at all.
Well, I've run into so many stupid kids who sit and tell me, it's like, oh, well, didn't the Joker do this? And I was like, no. It's like, you don't actually, like, the Killing Joke described exactly how they performed it in The Dark Knight.
Right.
Where he's told multiple stories about his origin, mainly because he either doesn't know or doesn't care to share, and the joke is more important than the truth.
Right. Let's see.
But nobody actually knows. Like, there's a few versions where, like, he was a stand-up comic, and he just wasn't bringing in any money, and something went south where he couldn't do well enough for his wife, and he snapped and, like, cut himself or killed his wife or something.
Right.
And then there was another one where, like, his wife never felt pretty enough or something, so he cut his face up so that, you know what I mean? It's always these goofy sort of...
Well, they've done the acid drop thing both in the movie and in the comics, but DC doesn't say whether or not that's actually what happened.
No, that is what happened. The first origin that Batman can ever trace as to where Joker began is that moment in Ace Chemicals, where he was Red Hood and fell in the vat, and it was partially Batman's fault. But yeah, he all began at Ace Chemicals. And as much as people malign...
Oh, that's right. They did that. There was an analysis that Bruce Wayne kept trying to go, or Batman kept trying to figure out how those chemicals could have changed him into Joker.
Yeah.
He's like, every time I've run these tests, the person dies.
As much as people malign Arkham Origins,
Uh-huh.
it had one of the most beautiful and creepy, like, Joker origin stories I've ever seen. It was really good. And how they captured how the Joker was done, that game deserves far more credit for how well it did. Like, it's almost worth playing just to see that sequence play out. Because they actually do the Ace Chemical thing, and they sort of show Joker and his mind at the time, and like where his head was. It's a fascinating story to see play out, but no, nobody actually knows his origin story. There's no sort of, wasn't he? No, he wasn't. he's told so many different stories now. There's no actual truth to the thing.
Okay, so the next thing, the Joker isn't crazy, he's super sane.
No, that's stupid.
Well, evidently this is something Grant Morrison wrote into the series.
Grant Morrison's stupid.
Yeah. They're talking about how he's murdered all these people. Why hasn't he been slapped with the death penalty? And the reason is because he's criminally insane. Evidently, he, in the Grant Morrison Arkham Asylum, A Serious House on Serious Earth, his take on the Joker is that he is blighted with super-sanity.
No. Grant Morrison has written some decent stuff in the Batman universe, but this is BS. He isn't super sane. He's sort of a cross between insane and aware. It's like the most crazy person you can think of who is super aware about how crazy he is. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's It's
like he broke and he had control about it.
Yeah. Remember, this is a list of things that DC wants you to not remember.
Well, let me remind you. Actually, Arkham Origins did it super well, where the Joker sort of describes the moment of going crazy,
mm-hmm.
where life gets so out of control, where the only way to actually stay together is to embrace the sanity, the insanity. The only sane
Otherwise,
thing to
he
do
would just
is
sit in the corner and blubber.
Well, no, it's
Gibber.
like he described it as the only sane thing to do is to go insane.
Right. It's kind of the Alice in Wonderland Mad Hatter.
It's like I'm crazy because I have to be.
Right.
He describes it so well. There's a sequence where he actually does the guy who does the voice work for the Joker in Arkham Origins actually does this reading on it, and it's so
Victor
well done.
Hugo
Where
novel.
He describes sort of going crazy, where you're like, oh my gosh, that's actually explains perfectly what's going on with the Joker in his head. But anyway.
Well, people like to claim that the character was ripped off by The Man Who Laughs, the movie or whatever. Well, it was a novel, I believe.
Well, the thing is Victor Hugo wrote the novel, and then they did this silent movie in 1929 or 1928.
If you see images of the silent movie, he looks exactly like people portray the
exactly,
Joker.
yeah.
Sort of a big, crazy smile. Ripped off? No. It's like...
Ripped off? No. Inspired?
gosh.
Certainly.
Like inspired, yes, but it's like, oh my gosh, it's like we've never seen a clown before. Yeah, how do you really just rip off a clown? He just make a clown look creepy. It's not that difficult. It's like saying the Joker is ripped off from what is that movie where the clowns are actually aliens? And it's a horror movie where they're eating people? It's like Insane Clowns from Space or something. I can't remember. But you know what I mean?
Right.
It's the same stupid concept. It's like saying Superman's ripped off from Jesus.
Right.
He's even got a little Moses going in there. It's like character. It's okay to have characters inspired by.
Right.
This is stupid.
Anyway, last thing that they want you to forget about the Joker. The romance between him and Batman. Romance is probably the wrong word.
It's a bromance.
It's definitely bromance.
What people don't understand when it comes to the Joker is, if you recall in The Dark Knight Returns, where Batman had retired, there's a second half to that after Batman fights Superman.
Right.
Where the Joker actually is in an insane asylum and has been dribbling just nonsense for years.
He's been catatonic, basically.
And he actually comes out of it when Batman comes back. Mainly because the Joker's motivation for existing, it's like his better half in a sort of like not sexual or romantic, but in almost like a we're meant to be together.
Right.
Because, like, we complete each other, so to speak. Like, the Joker doesn't exist without Batman, and it's almost like the Joker needs him to do his part. In the Dark Knight movie, Heath Ledger pulls it off really well, like, where he talks about how he needs to be the crazy part to Batman's control. Like, he goes more chaotic because Batman has so much self-control to sort of counter it. It's like his game he plays as between the two of them. He needs Batman almost because it's like there's actually a moment in the Batman. It's an alternate universe where Batman dies, and the Joker actually becomes a crime fighter to replace Batman because he needs Batman to fight against. And when Batman doesn't exist, he becomes the Batman to fight against the other guys. That's the sort of person Joker is. He doesn't see himself as like this separate entity. He sees himself as the other side of a coin of Batman. Right. If Batman doesn't exist, he doesn't have to. But if Batman exists, he has to.
He has to be there.
He has to be out there to sort of counter the game.
So anyway, well,
it's like he's the Satan to God.
Well, yeah, it's you can't have one without the other. And that's
he's the positive to the negative. He's a negative to the positive. It's the yin and yang sort of thing.
What I'd like to say is Batman doesn't necessarily see things this way. This is the way Joker sees things.
No, the Joker's one of the few characters that ever exists that almost haunts Batman to a little degree.
in the Death of the Family, Joker goes after Batman and he basically tries to manipulate Batman's allies and stuff into killing each other. He like douses him with his laughing gas, and there's a bunch of stuff. And the way Batman defeats him is he goes to tell Joker what his real name is. And Joker...
Yeah, because Joker doesn't want to care. Know. Well, he had this... There's this whole real serious sequence where Joker... where Batman talks... there's a lot of suspicion where they think that Joker might actually know everybody's identities.
Yeah.
Where...
and Batman keeps trying to tell him that's not true. He doesn't know. He doesn't
that's
care.
That's not the point. Batman knows that he doesn't know, but even if he did know, he doesn't want to know.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter who Batman is. It just matters that he's Batman. It's like you could tell him he's Bruce Wayne and he wouldn't care.
Right.
Because he doesn't see Bruce Wayne. He sees
Bruce Wayne
Batman.
isn't Batman.
Yeah.
Bruce Wayne is Bruce Wayne. Batman is Batman.
It's like Bruce Wayne could walk into a room and Joker would give a fart. And then he could put on his cowl right in front of him and then he'd go, oh, good thing you showed up, so to speak.
Exactly.
It's like it doesn't matter. And everybody got really upset with Batman. Like, you've been keeping the secret the whole time. The Joker knows what our identities are. He's going to kill us all, et cetera, et cetera. And Batman's like, no, it doesn't matter. He doesn't know who we are. He doesn't know. You have no idea who this guy is. And if anybody actually understands Joker, if anybody could, it would be Batman.
It would be Batman, yeah. So that's the list. We got... Some of it doesn't make sense. Some of this list is pretty crappy. But I did like some of it. The romance between him and Batman. That is one of the dynamics in comic books that really makes Batman work. The Joker has this obsession with Batman. You know what I mean? The whole Killing Joke was almost what did it boil down to? He wanted to make Batman laugh.
I think so, yeah. Crippled Barbara Gordon.
Right.
And then when the New 52 came out, they basically just erased that whole thing.
Exactly.
Like, my reaction to that was like, really? Alright, well, you just eliminated one of the greatest stories in comic book history, but okay. Like, it's considered like the top by most comic book writers. Like, they usually reference The Killing Joke as like the comic that got them into it.
Right.
Like, Christopher Nolan references The Killing Joke when he talks about wanting to do a Batman movie. He's like, because, reading comics like that makes you go, yeah, I really want to do a comic book movie.
Exactly. So, anything you want to talk about tonight?
There's a few things I could talk about. I read this. I didn't read the article. I suppose I could jump around in commentary. There was this article I saw on Kotaku, just flipping through tonight, where this guy was talking about, he wrote this article about how it was like, why I love Daredevil. And my immediate reaction was like, bull crap. Nobody cares about Daredevil. Nobody cares. Unless you're a diehard Daredevil fan, unless you're buying the comics, unless you were reading them years ago, nobody freaking cares about Daredevil. It was only until the show came out that you're all of a sudden seeing all these articles of like, the best Daredevil comics, or this is why I love Daredevil. It was like, you didn't give a fart until the stupid show came out, and it was good. And now you have to talk about it like, oh yeah, I was always a fan.
Well, you know...
I was like, you never read it. Come on. You flippin' idiot.
If you look at one of these articles that's like, these are the 10 best Daredevil comics, or whatever...
well, it's not even that. He was just talking about the stupid Daredevil stuff.
If you read these, do you get a sense that he really does know what he's talking about, and this is kind of an article that's reacting to other people getting interested in Daredevil because of the show?
I didn't read it, and he might know something about Daredevil. He might be one of those guys who's read some, but he probably reads it like to supplement his interest in Spider-Man or something. It's like, if anybody really cared about Daredevil, they would have been talking about it years ago. Me, I've talked about Daredevil multiple times on this show because of how much I enjoy the character.
Very true.
I don't hear boo until the stupid show comes out because nobody cares. And Daredevil's had some crappy runs. Like, as much as people think Kevin Smith is really good, he wrote a fairly mediocre run on Daredevil, which isn't great. He's written a few times for comic books just because of his popularity. And the few runs he's actually done, most people just sort of like roll their eyes at because they don't think he's that great a writer for comic books. And he usually is that guy, that comic book writer that everybody hates that has to like mix everything up because he's bored by writing it. Like Kevin Smith, to his credit, likes Daredevil because he's that New York guy. He's sort of the original, he's from Jersey and stuff, and everybody loves that East Coast character and whatnot. But he loves the character, and shoot, he was in Daredevil.
Right.
And his best friend, Ben Affleck, was freaking in Daredevil. But when he wrote it, you get a sense of, yeah, I'm going to kill off a main character, I'm going to do this, and it's like, at what point did you earn the right to be sort of like the life-changing writer for Daredevil?
Yeah.
You know what writers are good? You could tell a really good writer from just a good writer. A good writer writes a dramatic story with big changes and et cetera, and you're like, oh wow, look at this, look at this, and look at this. A really good writer can actually captivate you, write an interesting, tense, realistic story without changing the core of the character, without having to kill off major characters, without having to change everything completely.
Right.
But can change the inner sort of like character of the character and test the morality and test who they are without actually having to take the whole thing and throw it out the window.
Right.
That's a good writer, and those are so rare to actually run into writers like that, which is why when you see a really good series like, let's say, Breaking Bad,
right,
really well written, but the show had to sort of rest on the whole, we have to keep escalating.
Right.
And it gets to the point where the writers recognize that they just can't escalate anymore. And they had to end the show. Like, it couldn't run on for like 8 seasons. As much as people would have loved it, it just couldn't run on for 8 seasons. You could see when
they would have gotten too ridiculous. It's like, with every time they have to up the ante, so to speak, at one point it's going to be like, my gun fires sharks. Like, what?
Well, it's that whole jump the shark moment. It's the nuke the fridge.
Yeah.
It's like when in The Office, like the first 3, maybe 4 seasons were pretty good. And then they just drug it out. And what made The Office good is because everybody understood that sort of awkward moments of working in an office with weird people who had sort of just weird tendencies. You just had to put up with the stupidity of other people just around you. And when they dealt with sort of everyday, like I lost my pencil, like they could have a whole episode of one character freaking out because he doesn't know where his pencil is. And it's not just
any pencil. It's the pencil that his dead grandfather gave him.
No, it doesn't even have to be that. It's just his favorite pencil. Like something normal and stupid. And they could have created a lot of humor around it, but it's like they kept doing more and more episodes after about 3 or 4 outside of The Office because they just lost stuff to do. And you could tell most of those people just didn't really work in The Office. The people who wrote, because it's at one point it's like I could have written a whole season of just stupidity happening in The Office because most of what made it funny is people have been there. It's that awkward moment, but they jumped the shark and they started to have like Dwight actually set a fire in the office and made everybody think it was a fire because nobody was taking
fire drills.
The whole fire drill seriously. Really funny episode. I would say everything after that episode went south because it was just too much at that point. It just peaked. It's like, what in the world? Where in the world are you going to go from here? There's nowhere else to go. And it's just bad writers don't know what to do. And they can write decent stuff because they've got a good idea. But it's the person who has a good idea and then can keep it going and keep it interesting is a really good writer. I would argue there's a lot of really famous, well-known writers who are not good writers. George R.R. Martin, just a crap writer. And I don't care who freaking knows it. He's terrible. J.K. Rowling, not good. Apparently she's gotten better.
Well, as you do it.
But the way well, right. But that's just because she's written so many books. It's like, I guess I'm getting better as I write more. But she's just mediocre, and she writes plot holes into stuff, and she just doesn't understand how to structure stories. What's her name that wrote Twilight is just a terrible writer. But she understands that sort of teenage angst, love obsession thing. And that's just enough for people to get obsessed with it. But if you actually analyze her writing at all, it's just garbage. There's quite a few just well-known popular writers that just write nonsense. There's that new Dragon Ball Z movie. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. Is it, it's from the cartoon, right?
Well, it's a movie, but yeah, it's the cartoon.
Right. What was that one that you were showing me that somebody re-edited?
Oh, Dragon Ball Z Abridged. That show's good. That's the stupid part.
So, I guess what they were doing was they took Dragon Ball Z and edited it down.
In Dragon Ball Z Abridged, they took the series and then they edited it in such a way so that they could make it funny. And they redid all the voice acting, so it's like they edited a lot of it down because you can't have like a 400-hour voice acting thing. So they took out a lot of the nonsense. They even had one episode that they showed where it was the entire, like, it's like they expressed an entire season of Dragon Ball Z in about 5 minutes. And it's just, hey, I'm here, let's fight. Okay, I lose. And then it's, you know what I mean? And Abridged, they basically just sort of even changed a little bit of the motivations. They turned Goku into just flat stupid as opposed to just kind of stupid. Vegeta is just straight evil. But he has this weird, goofy personality to him. The Dragon Ball Z Abridged is just really funny. If any of you get a time to actually look at it, it's more funny to those who have seen Dragon Ball Z, I would say. Because you can actually see where you know the story and you know what should be happening, and seeing the changes is what actually makes it quite humorous.
I think I need an adult. And what is it that Vegeta says? I am an adult.
I am an adult. Well, they actually do that line a couple of times in the show, where I think Gohan at some point goes, "I need an adult," and then the character standing next to him goes, "I am an adult." Actually, it was Piccolo, and Piccolo took care of Goku. Remember after Goku died, and Piccolo took Gohan, like, for no reason, out into the middle of nowhere. It's like, where's his mom? But took him out to the middle of nowhere to train him, and it basically had, like, dinosaurs chasing Gohan all over the place. It was just stupid. And immediately when he grabbed a hold of Gohan to go train him and stuff, he's like, oh, I'm going to train him for Goku for some reason. And Gohan's like, I don't know about this. I think I need an adult. And Piccolo goes, I am an adult. One of the first lines you actually hear out of Piccolo in the season 1 of the Abridged is Piccolo sitting there doing nothing, and he's looking at his cell phone, and he's like, man, still no friend requests on MySpace. He's like, except for you, Tom. You're always there for me. Because, everybody has Tom as an immediate friend out of the beginning. And then Goku calls in because he needs help because some Saiyans are showing, or Raditz shows up. And Piccolo's like, oh, I don't care about any of this nonsense. And then Goku goes, I'll friend you on MySpace. And he's like, I'll be right there.
Nice. Yeah, I used to read the comics, and I watched some of the series, but I never got as far as Dragon Ball Z. I got through Dragon Ball, the original series.
Right, where Goku is a
little kid.
Is a young guy trying to compete in the world tournament or whatever. And that's when Yamcha was a piece of crap. And Tien was there too. Yeah, they were both just pieces of crap. Like, they were just bad guys. That's the weird thing about Goku. Most of the early bad guys that he fights, he turns into allies later on. And it's just odd.
Well, it's kind of funny. Dragon Ball Z is actually based on Journey to the West.
Yeah, I recall that. It's just poorly based on Journey.
Goku is based on the Monkey King. And the funny thing about it is that that's kind of what happens. Goku, Sandmonk, and the pig, I forget his name, they were each chosen and told to go on this quest because they were not good people.
Well,
and it was kind of their way to earn redemption.
Early Dragon Ball, especially when Goku's a kid and then older, is really close to the sort of concept where he's this monkey guy with a tail, and he likes to fight, and he has his staff and stuff that can grow length, and all of that's in the original tale. It's just it goes way off the rails later on.
Yeah,
and you're like, what's with this whole there's more than one, and they're the ancient race of these monkey guys, and they go to space, and then they turn into Super Saiyans. None of that is original. Akira Toriyama. And Toriyama, one of the weirdest, I don't want to call him a douchebag, but he's just an oddball. And he makes some of the dumbest statements. It's like Android 17 and 18 from the Android saga.
Right.
Big, huge, major characters. Shoot, Krillin marries 17.
Right.
Has this thing for her and actually marries her. Toriyama actually at one point says, I don't understand why everybody keeps calling them Android 17 and 18. And then everybody goes, that's because you never told us what their names were. Because apparently they actually have names. He just never actually told anybody. He just wrote it and just assumed it was there. There's some other crap, He actually... Did you ever hear the original concept for why he made up all the characters the way they were?
No, I haven't.
So, most of the characters actually have names that, if you hear it in English, you understand that it actually sounds weird. Because it's named after, like, vegetables and stuff. Like, Vegeta is vegetable. Kakarot is carrot. Piccolo is pickle.
Right.
Pretty much all of them have sort of food-based names and stuff. And the original concept, Raditz is radish. There was another one. At any rate, these are all sort of big, powerful, major characters, and the series was sort of originally intended to end with the Frieza saga.
Okay.
And Frieza was the refrigerator, wherein he rules over all of the vegetables that reside within. Because he was the ruler of the universe. And all of the vegetables within him are all of sort of the underneath him.
Right, because he's the refrigerator.
Yeah, and he's a refrigerator. And when you hear that story, you're like, this is the dumbest piece of crap I've ever heard. Like, it takes the whole mystique about the thing, and you go, yeah, this sounds stupid.
That's
Toriyama's
funny.
did some other weird things, where he just sort of like, oh, this, and then everyone's like, why don't you, this is weird. Why are you doing it? I actually like his character designs. He's actually added character designs to a few other things. He was the one that did the character and monster designs for Chrono Trigger.
Okay. Yeah, you can kind of see his artwork there.
Oh yeah, when they did the redo from the Super Nintendo on the PlayStation, he actually added a cutscene that was all animated of all the characters, almost like a little Chrono Trigger trailer, so to speak, in the beginning.
Okay.
Which is actually pretty cool. He took part in a few other games and stuff. I can't say specifically what they were, but yeah, Toriyama and his weirdly unique style of stuff. But yeah, he has a long history of doing stuff and then not actually telling people about it.
So, did he eventually tell people what the androids' names were?
Yeah, I forget what they are, but you can actually Google them. But he actually mentioned, because he was all confused, like, why do you guys keep calling them androids? Because you never told us what they are.
Because they do that a lot. I mean...
And a lot of that stuff is really hard to penetrate, too, because there's a lot of Dragon Ball Z content in Japan that it takes super dedicated individuals to translate. It's like originally Goku outside of Japan, outside of America in Japan, is actually voiced by a grandmother, and it is classically voiced by a woman every time they've done it. And I think it's only just the one main woman.
Simpsons, for instance, his voice is done by a lady. Bart Simpson.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's been known for a while, especially the very masculine sort of character that all the kids are into. People have known for quite some time that a gal has done the voice for.
It's easier for them to do a kid's voice than an adult male to do a kid's voice.
Yeah. Well, but the grown Goku is a
grandmother.
Is a woman.
That's funny.
Oh yeah. There's a story of her being on a bus at one point, and a bunch of kids getting all like rambunctious and stuff, and treating her disrespectfully. That they like wouldn't give up their seat or something, and she's an older lady, and she goes, she said something like, "You should be respectful to your elders." And then the kids all started freaking out because you're like, "You're Goku," and then she's like, "Yes, I am," and then she goes, "Ah," because she could do the screaming thing. The American actor that did the voice for Vegeta in the sound booth screamed so hard for one of the power-up moments in the show that he actually passed out in the sound booth. That they flat out had a story of like, yeah, I was screaming so hard, I actually just like the blood just rushed out of my head because it's like too much pressure and stuff while he's screaming, and he just passed out in the sound booth and nobody could tell for a second.
That's funny.
He just blew out, and multiple times the actors have actually blown their voice boxes out because of all the screaming.
That's one of the things that I didn't like about the Dragon Ball series was that, you know, I don't mind that they're fighting every other episode. It's the fact that they're fighting every other episode.
Well,
it's just too long.
It bad. They drag it out way too long. Battle sequences, like build up to battles, takes like 5 episodes or 6 episodes. And I know that sounds exaggerated, but they really are like 5. I mean, it might even be like 4 episodes, but you don't want to watch 4 episodes of dialogue when the 2 big bad guys
are standing right across from each other, ready to duke it out.
Yeah, get all like dramatic and stuff.
You're like, fight already! What are you waiting for? That's what I paid to see.
And then they always, I know. Well, which is what Dragon Ball Z Kai was supposed to fix. Like, they cut down a lot of it, but Dragon Ball Z Kai didn't do super well. I just flicked my mic, so I'm going to see a spike on there. There's a spider on it, and I had to get them all. It didn't do super well, and they only ran for so long, but they did a completely new... it's like all the same dialogue mostly, but the original voice actors came back and voiced them all again. And they cut down everything for consistency, and then voiced it so everything made more sense. But they cut out like half of the show or something like that, just to make it like work. But yeah, he actually he wrote a lot of manga, and it stretched all the way to the Boo stuff, if I recall. He wanted to stop at Frieza. They wouldn't let him stop. And then he wanted to stop at Cell, and they wouldn't let him stop. But he dragged it all the way out to, like, the Boo stuff. But none of the manga actually exists for the Dragon Ball GT. Like, other people did it. So there's no manga after the Boo stuff, if I recall. Or maybe it's even the Cell stuff. So a lot of fans don't even consider Dragon Ball GT to be canon. They made shows for it because they just wanted to keep making new shows, but Toriyama didn't actually participate, if I recall, in GT.
Well, it's one of those things where they were making money on it, so why stop?
Yeah, I guess so. I've never been a super obsessed Dragon Ball Z fan. The show is fun, but it actually just gets really bad.
Well, that was my thing. I liked Dragon Ball, the first series, because it was fun. But I didn't really get into the Dragon Ball Z stuff because it just wasn't fun anymore.
Well, the animation for the fight scenes was amazing. Like, nobody's ever actually done really good like, fight scenes between characters in a show that I could recall before that. Like, it just blows you away. And when they speed it up and stuff, it looks really good. And the whole concept of powers and shooting energy out of your hands and stuff is just really cool. And when you see it, it's sort of chintzy at first, but you get into it and you see the really cool fight scenes and you're like, yeah, this is great. But the stories are meh, and the writing is eh, you know what I mean?
Actually, talking about Dragon Ball Z reminded me, I downloaded a while back, but I hadn't played it. There's an Xbox game. I don't know if it was on PlayStation or not, but it's called Enslaved. And I'm trying to remember. It has a subtitle like Odyssey to the West or something like that. And it's also based on the whole Journey to the West. Has the King character in it, and I just played that. The demo. So, like I said, I downloaded the demo, but I hadn't played it. I just did that recently. Controls were a bit wonky. Story could be good. I don't know. Just got the brief introduction. So,
there's a comic book line that they're doing between Star Wars Episode 3 and 4. That's been running now. That has a lot of the main Star Wars characters and stuff. And I saw this article on Kotaku where the guy was like speculating. It's like, well, they've got these new like Sith characters like Ventress and Voss. Are they new contenders with Darth Vader? And the answer is no, because we know what happens in Episode 4, and Vader doesn't actually have any rivals. And I hate it when, I mean, it's happened before where you sort of see a prequel or you sort of see a show where you just sort of understand, and they try and give you a sense of, I don't know, tenseness to the whole thing. It's like with the prequels and stuff with Star Wars itself. It's like, oh, look, it's Anakin. He's in this dangerous situation. You're like, you know he's gonna survive because he exists in the other Like, there's no danger involved with it because you really don't care. It's like, oh my gosh, it's Obi-Wan. Well, you've seen him. He dies in episode 4. I mean, how much suspense can you have when he's fighting something? It's like he's not even missing any limbs, so he turns out pretty good. So how many fights that Obi-Wan shows up into are you actually really going to have any problems with? And it's that knowing the ending before you see it sort of thing. It's like watching a Superman movie and be like, ooh, I wonder if Superman wins. It's like, of course he will.
Yeah, he's not going to die. He has to come back in the next movie.
Well, everybody in the world would know about it before it came out. Because rumors would be flying around. It's like, oh, this is the movie. Rumors say that Superman dies in this one. like cameramen on the set
right.
will be leaking that crap before it actually hits. Like, there's no way a movie's going to come out that nobody knows.
Well, I mean, even if they manage to keep a lid on it, if the tagline is, in this one, Superman dies, or, you know, they've already tipped their hand. But yeah, in the world that we live in now, with the accessibility of cell phones and stuff, there are so many leaked things. I mean, with the Star Wars, The Force Awakens,
well, they had this guy flying over the set of The Force Awakens, taking like aerial shots of what looked like the Millennium Falcon on the ground in like England or whatever. It's just people really want to know, and George Lucas took a lot of criticism in the prequels with Episode 1 and stuff for how just aggressive he went after people that would spoil the story. Because it got really bad. Like, I remember seeing comics about how bad it was. Like, an image of a security guard holding a gun to, like, this little kid's head who has, like, a Star Wars t-shirt on. Like, that's how strict the security was and all of that stuff.
Well, J.J. Abrams has taken it and gone in a completely different direction. He's been leaking stuff about it himself, which is kind of cool.
Well, he knows that he needs to keep some things secrets because there's so much hype about it.
Right.
So instead of starving people, you feed them a little bit at a time.
Right.
And that's the smart thing to do. It's like the guy...
You whet their appetite, you keep them hungry, you don't give them everything until the show starts, and then they don't do the snooping and all that stuff going around.
Well, it's like the guy that's doing the new Superman-Batman movie. He was the one that tweeted pictures of the Batmobile.
Right.
He was the one that put those pictures out. He was the one that did the tease image of what Batman's suit looks like, and then everybody freaks out and chats about it.
Right.
That's the smart thing to do. Not only do you play the social media angle, but you're actually able to sort of connect with the fans and give them a bit of information so that everybody isn't like freaking out every 5 seconds.
Right.
This whole Batman versus Superman movie is just going to piss me off. I'm not excited for it. I think it's a bad idea. I think all of the fanboys who are obsessed with Batman are going to get all pissy and be like, oh, well, Batman won or whatever. It's like you don't actually win against Superman.
Okay, now, one more thing about the Batman-Superman thing, and then we will move on to our championship fight in our tournament. I showed my wife the new trailer for the Batman-Superman thing. I wanted my family to see the new Star Wars trailer, and I showed them the Batman-Superman, and I showed them also the Ant-Man trailer. My wife thought the Ant-Man trailer was funny, and you need to check it out, especially the end scene. But, so I showed my wife the Batman-Superman trailer, and she's not a comic book fan. She'll go see the movies with me and stuff, or she'll sit down and watch them at home with me if I want her to. But she's not one. She doesn't read comics. She's not really into that kind of stuff. But she looked at the trailer, and she looks at me kind of confused, and she says, "They're fighting? See? Why are they fighting?"
That's what everybody's going to say. Because if you're not a comic book fan, immediately you're going to be like, why are the good guys fighting with each other? And it's going to come across as this big, petty sort of misunderstanding.
Yeah.
Where Batman's just petty douchebag, where he can't trust anybody to actually save the world.
Right.
So he has to immediately pick a fight with Superman for no good reason. He has to over-prepare and figure out a way to build something to beat Superman. When Superman's just like, dude, I don't want to fight you. You're just some guy.
Right.
And if Superman really wanted to kill Batman, he could.
Exactly.
He just holds back because he's not a douchebag like Batman is.
All right. So anyway, the last round of the championship.
Right. Our final battle between John McClane and Judge Dredd. I don't know. I don't know how I would approach this fight. I would have to do it.
Let's say John McClane standing there. Dredd will probably take the first shots. McClane jumps out of the way, hides somewhere, tries to figure out a clever way to get at him.
Right.
Distract him or whatever. See, the problem is Judge Dredd deals with a lot of the criminal element, and he's used to dealing with the unexpected.
That's true.
And if anything, McClane is unexpected. But McClane lasted way longer than he should have. But he just sort of hit the right people for the bracket to be able to worm his way up to the top. It's possible you could see McClane doing something like distracting, running around, and then like hitting him with a car. Which he did with. There was I think it was in the third. No, it was that fourth new one, the Live Free or Die Hard.
Right.
Where he was fighting, I think it was a chick or something that was just kicking the crap out of him, who was just far stronger.
He hits her with a car.
Yeah, and it's like he gets knocked out a window, and then you see him just drive through the wall and hit him with a car. And that's how McClane does stuff. That's how he deals with things. It's inelegant, it's rough, and it's effective.
Yeah.
And that's how he does things. Dredd, on the other hand, actually deals with the unexpected really well. He constantly is surrounded, always outnumbered, and always dealing with just straight up gang members who are trying to just take him out.
Right.
I mean, he's taken out, he's dealt with security and riots on such a massive scale that he's like the one guy dealing with thousands of people in the street.
He walks into the situation and just starts laying down the law.
Well, yeah. That's how awesome Dredd is, and the people who don't read his comics don't realize how freaking good he is. If I were to say, is it possible for McClane to beat Dredd? Absolutely.
Uh-huh.
Is it likely? Probably not. And if I were to give an edge, it would be to Dredd.
See, this is what I'm wondering here, because I think that McClane has a chance to beat Dredd. But the thing is that I'm trying to look at this in the perspective of, yes, he has a chance. How good is that chance?
Right.
If we throw them into a scenario 10 times, does Judge Dredd come out ahead the majority of times and John McClane the minority, or is it the other way around? Because if it's the other way around, then John McClane wins. But if it's, he wins once and Judge Dredd wins 9 times.
If I were to give it a percentage, it wouldn't be half and half.
Right.
And I would give McClane enough credit that I wouldn't say it's like a 75% Dredd.
Uh-huh.
I would probably go 60-40, but 60-40 is enough to actually tip it.
It's still in Dredd's favor.
In Dredd's favor.
Yeah.
But I would actually say 60-40. I don't know, maybe I'm being too fair to McClane, but in my opinion, that's how it would fall.
See, I guess the way that I see this going is that, like I said, he does things that are unexpected, John McClane does. And like, as you pointed, but he's not crazy. Judge Dredd deals with crazy, but he also deals with, as you pointed out, unexpected. He's a walking one-man army. And the thing is with McClane, what's going to happen is, Judge Dredd goes in and takes everybody out. McClane, he doesn't necessarily take everybody out, he takes everybody out in pieces. And when he gets to the final confrontation, it's usually some sort of, what's the word I'm looking for here? Some sort of fantastic situation there, With Die Hard 1, he taped a gun to his back. With
consider this. McClane more consistently deals with and overcomes overwhelming odds, especially in a one-on-one scenario. Dredd usually never fights single fights. He usually always deals with like groups of people. You could make a reasonable argument that McClane would have an edge.
That's true. Judge Dredd is more I don't know, equipped or at least in his world, he doesn't fight one-on-one a lot. He usually goes into a situation with a gang.
I mean, he's fought other judges, but he knows them, he knows how they work, he knows how they function, and he does it better. But when he's usually in the roughest fights, in most of his fights, it's usually sort of him versus 12 or 20, you know what I mean?
Right, whereas John McClane, he tries to isolate his opponents and take them out one at a time.
And he frequently fights people that are better. And he frequently takes them out simply because he's clever.
Right.
I don't know. I just sort of argued my way into a weird corner.
Back around the other way.
The one important thing about doing these debates is you can't have a scenario where it's like if you have a superhero fight and Batman's in it, you can't just be like, well, Batman wins because he just wins. He always wins. And it's like, well, McClane wins because he always just miraculously pulls off some weird stunt at the end. Doesn't quite fly. You have to sort of argue the merits because every hero sort of miraculously pulls it off.
They all, it always comes down to the end.
Him usually
what I was going for
than others.
What I was going for is that, it's that, he's always looking for the clever way to take the bad guy down. He doesn't necessarily go at them head on unless he is forced to. He tries to figure out a way to outmaneuver them, and to put them in a situation where he's going to be on top.
In Live Free or Die Hard, they were trapped in a tunnel, and this helicopter was above trying to take them out, and he couldn't figure out what to do. So he jammed the wheel and the gas on, and he took the helicopter out with the car.
Right.
By ramping it off of like the embankment,
a toll booth.
The toll booth or whatever. That's the sort of things he does. Now they took it to a somewhat ridiculous degree
especially with the jet.
But since it's part of his canon, I would consider that just another aspect of his sort of I can do clever things to take people out. In my opinion. Die Hard and McClane was better when it was more realistic, as opposed to I'm hanging off of a jet as it's flying around.
Right.
I mean, it just sort of is ridiculous at that point. Nobody cares about your huge... Everybody wants to be like the other successful movies. Be like your
right. Make sure that people know what you're doing and everything, and stick to what you're good at.
I mean, just stand out in the way that makes you good. It's like, make it realistic, make it gritty. Don't be like trying to be Fast and the Furious or something. You know what I mean? You don't have to be Fast and the Furious. You're John freaking McClane. They should want to be like you.
Exactly. And they probably did.
It's like the coolest, like most dramatic scene that could possibly seem like realistic, ridiculous in the first movie. Is he grabs a hold of the fire hose and jumps off the side of the building.
And jumps out the window. Jumps off the side of the building.
Inelegant and awkward. Like, he just sort of hits the side, and he's all beat up and stuff, and he has to shoot the window to get through. And it's a cool scene, but it's not so far outreach that it's implausible. It's unlikely that he would be able to jump off and not, like, die or get seriously injured, but it's possible,
It's within the realm of possibility,
It's like everything just sort of works out his way.
Well, initially I was thinking of this in terms of Judge Dredd winning, but I don't know.
I'm on the fence. I think if I were being honest and straight up skill and realisticness, Dread. But you can make a reasonable argument that McClane could do it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I argued myself into going, I don't know.
This is interesting. Judge Dredd has definitely the what's the equipment,
ability.
better equipment.
I
but
think
like
he's better trained, better skilled.
Yeah, but like you said, McClane often does against people who are tougher and better armed because he has to be. But he has to figure out something in order to overcome them. Otherwise, he would have been gone long before now. Should we give it another week and end it next time?
Let's get some fresh ears on this and move on, because I'm too on the fence to really make a decision. Yeah, these are legit arguments, you guys. Don't be a douche. And actually, Chance, freaking... You can do it. You could do Dark Souls. You could do it. I'm going to try and stream something or something so he can watch me play it, because it's not as he's stuck on the Taurus demon. He can't beat it. And you've beaten the Taurus demon.
Which one was that one?
The one on it's not the bridge. It's like the wall with the archers above.
Oh, with the bull thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. I beat that one. I don't remember how, but I did.
You just keep falling off the roof and stabbing him in the head.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
It's just he can't pull it off for some reason.
You go up above him where he can't get to you, and
well,
then you fall off
apparently every time he jumps off, he keeps missing, or he just falls. And he's getting all fed up with it.
If you don't hit them, if you don't do damage, then it damages you.
Well, if I recall, you have to be in fall before you swing, and it has to be the light swing, not the heavy. You can't, jump off and then swing, because it'll miss. You have to fall and then swing.
Right.
And then you just have to land right on the guy's head. It's actually a fairly big hitbox, if I recall, for a fall damage.
Yeah. Well, anyway, have fun. Don't do anything lethally stupid, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Distracted Gamers podcast. If you like the show, follow Rhett and Jason, the world's two most lethally stupid internet personalities, on Twitter at DG Podcast, or check them out at www.thedistractedgamers.com. If you loved or hated what you've heard here, email them at thedistractedgamers.blogspot.com and share your feelings. Not that Jason will care, since he hasn't any, of course.